Alright, just got back from walking my dog. Was a lot of fun, like any other dog walk would be. So, recently I've been getting a lot of people adding me on Steam who don't seem to realize what a friends list on Steam is. So I'm going to go over what that is. I'm also going to be addressing something that people continue to insist on talking about when I've told them I don't want to talk about it, so I'm going to try to give the final word on it one more time, so people can understand what my point of view on it is, and why I don't want to talk about it, and why I don't want anyone else to mention it. Thank you. First off, a Steam friends list is a list of people that can join your games, or look at your profile on a whim. That's it. You're not my friend just because you're on that list. You haven't achieved anything that would make me want to talk to you above the capacity of a fan unless you are my friend before you add me, or even after you add me. And you can't become my friend by adding me on Steam and then pretending that we're best friends from that point on and we can talk about any boring thing that you want to. Now, I'm not saying that people are around for my entertainment, but I am saying that I don't want to talk to you about what you did today. That's boring to me. There is nothing that you have done that is exciting to me. If you want to talk to me about things randomly, please talk to me about something that I love to talk about, so that we can talk, so it's not boring, so it's not just a waste of both of our time. We can bond about stuff. I like to talk about games, but not so much. You have to be careful with games, because I'm very cynical about games. And I like to talk about music, but I'm very cynical about music. You have to be ready to have me say things that you may not like, and you have to be prepared to accept that and work around it. If you don't agree with me, well, we'll be happy to agree to disagree, but don't try to prove me wrong or change my mind. It's not going to work. I have my opinions on things because I've already given them a chance and they have failed, or they fell short. Or some things I have high opinions of. I'm not out to change your mind, but if you haven't given it a chance, I'm going to say, hey, give it a chance. Try it out. Look stuff up on it. And I'll try to explain what makes that game good. I love to talk about voice acting, microphones, audio in general. But, please, don't send me your voice demos. Don't send me anything like that and ask for critiques, because I'm gonna be honest with you, and some people don't want honesty. And when you ask for a critique, to me that means, listen to what I did, tell me what I did wrong, and how I can fix it. To some people, a critique means a butt pat, and it's not. A critique means, tell me what I did wrong, how do I fix it? And I can do that. But if you don't want that, don't ask for it. And don't send me your demo files. Thank you. Second thing, people come to my Steam and they want to talk to me about this Derp Crew thing that I used to be a part of. Now, newsflash, in case any of you haven't been following my Twitter or my Tumblr, or you haven't looked at my Steam profile page, I'm not in the Derp Crew. They decided to stop playing games with me randomly, so I left because what's the point of being in the Derp Crew if they don't play games with you? To me, that means I got kicked out, unofficially, and they didn't even have the common decency to tell me that I was kicked out. They just decided, oh, let's just not play with him, he'll leave on his own, and we can blame it on him when he points out that we're all a bunch of scumbags. Because that's how they do that. That's the kind of people that are in the Derp Crew right now. I think that the only person that I even could consider a friend that was in the Derp Crew is Rio. The rest of them are backstabbers and traitors, and they don't want to treat people equally, and they don't want to be friends. That's not how they approach the Derp Crew. See, I thought it was a gathering of friends who play games. And since I was in there, I was going to play games with them and maybe even be friends. But as it seems, chilled chaos and diction would rather it be a status symbol, much like the creatures are, nowadays anyway. Where you're in there, so you've made it. You know, everybody in there is going to be what they have a fan base for. Be it Let's Plays or the group Let's Play kind of things. That's not what I thought it was. That's not what they told me it was. I thought that we just played games together and they would bring me along, but as it seemed, they didn't. They didn't tell me why they didn't. They didn't approach me as to why they didn't want to play with me anymore. They just decided to stop. And when I got mad about it, I was the bad guy because it's bad to lash out when people treat you like crap. But let's continue on that, shall we? There's another bit of drama that's a pretty similar thing that people sometimes bring up, especially if they come from the Newgrounds side of my past. And they keep talking about Spazkid. And they want to talk about why we don't work together, and they ask me if I hate him and whatnot. I always tell them the same things, but they continue to ask. It must be that they literally don't talk to each other about it. They just ask me and that's it. Well, I would prefer that if you ask me about something that's controversial like that and you learn my side of it, you start to talk about my side of it with the other people. Maybe try to get an understanding amongst people that don't know what's going on, so we don't have to continue answering this question over and over and over again. It's really, really trying on my patience. Here's what happened. It's very simple. Spazkid, or Corey, or however you know him, decided to do a bunch of animations and have some voice actors work with him because A, he didn't have the equipment to have a high quality voice to go with his animation that matched it, because his animations were very good, but if he had a crap voice quality, it would clash, it wouldn't look good. And B, he couldn't do a lot of diverse voices, so he couldn't play the multitude of characters that he would put into his animations, which just heightened the quality. He had a lot of characters to work with, it was well written, and if it had the right quality voices, it would bring it all together to a wonderful product that made him into what he is today. Which isn't really that much, but he's on his way. And he's only going to get better with time, hopefully, depending on who he continues to surround himself with and whether he decides to stick to animation or if he wants to do something else, who knows. I know he wanted to do this whole ska thing for a while and he had a band going. I don't know if he still has it going. I haven't talked to him in forever. Spazkid didn't want to tell me things. And because he didn't tell me things, I had to come up with my own conclusions. For instance, during one of his later projects, he cast me in roles, and then later on just said I didn't have the roles anymore, and it was way after a bunch of other stuff happened. For instance, let's try to compare it to something else. I'll use a bit of a metaphor after I explain it. Basically, for a while, when we worked together, Spazkid would write things, and then he would give them to me and Lyle, and Red Feather was there sometimes, and Finny, I don't know if he wrote anything, but he would be a part of that process sometimes that I know of. I don't think he was in any of the brainstorming sessions that I was in, but I'm sure that he did something other than just code sites. We would write back and forth. We'd bounce off of each other. I would bounce off of Lyle, who would bounce off of Corey, who would bounce off of everything else, and we would just keep bouncing all around each other until we came up with a viable script that would then be either made into an audio skit and then animated, or there would be some animation and the audio would be recorded piece by piece as the animation got closer and closer to a final product. Now, when you're part of that process, when you're part of the creation process beyond just grabbing a script and reading it, it's safe to assume that you are entitled to knowing things like who's in what role and what's going on. And when you're left out of that, it's safe to assume that there's something wrong, that there is something going on that you don't know about. Since I wasn't being told who was doing what, and I wasn't being told who was doing where and what was doing how, etc., etc., I thought that I was being phased out. For whatever reason. Didn't make any sense to me, seemed rather random. But overall, I didn't like how I was being treated because I was being pushed aside and he wasn't talking to me about anything. I wasn't in the loop for whatever reason, but how am I supposed to work with someone at the level where we're creating stuff together when I'm out of the loop? That doesn't make sense. Why would you do that? To make a comparison, Spazkid worked on Sanity Not Included. Now let's say that instead of just having one animator that they took advantage of, they had a team of animators that they took advantage of. And instead of working on one animation with the whole team per week, the animators were just like, you were gonna work this week and you work next week. So they would go to Spaz Kid and they were like, hey, you're gonna do next week's episode. He's gonna do this week's episode. So he's like, great, I get a week off. So the week off happens, and then he's ready to start working. And when he asks for the information on what to do, the person says, oh, no, you're not working on this week. You're going to be working on the week after next week. And we're also looking for more animators. Now, this is basically what happened between Corey and me, because he gave me a role and then took it away. Shortly after, somebody tells me that they're looking for a new voice actor. They don't tell me why they're looking for a new voice actor. They don't tell me what the voice actor is going to be, if it's a male or female, what's going on. I know nothing, except I'm having roles taken away from me without being told ahead of time, or even that had happened. I just kind of learned third party out of nowhere. It wasn't even something where it's like, oh, let's talk about who's playing what. It's just kind of like, oh, no, you're not playing that guy, you play that guy. Which would have been fine if it was just brought up in some kind of context that wasn't just out of nowhere, like it didn't even matter that I wasn't playing a role or whatnot. Which to me doesn't make any sense, especially when you're going to be looking for more voice actors later. It kind of sends a red flag to people. Just like if they were to say, oh, you're not gonna animate this week, you're gonna animate next week, and we're looking for new animators. I think that it's safe for anyone to assume that there's going to be some kind of downsizing, and since they don't seem to care about you enough to let you know when there's a schedule change or some kind of change in what you need to do, that you might be one of those people that's going to be downsized. So I thought, one, he was already looking to get rid of me, and two, that wasn't very nice. I wasn't very keen on how I was being treated, so I told him the following statement: if you want to treat me like crap, that's fine. You can treat me like I'm someone who just reads scripts and you can just throw me aside and I'm so replaceable, blah blah blah. But you have to pay me if that's the case. I'm not going to be treated like shit for free. I could understand if you wanted to just throw your weight around because you have a paycheck that you can pay me and there's some kind of benefit on my end for taking this kind of treatment, but there isn't. If you want to be informal with me like this, then keep me in the loop. Tell me things. Don't keep secrets. That's not right. You can't just go behind my back and do things like that. That's not right. It's not how you treat people and then expect them to want to work with you on a team. That's not very teamwork-like behavior. So he got mad and wanted to twist this into me having an ego trip because by demanding money to be treated so poorly translates to I feel that I'm entitled to be paid because I have a giant ego. Now, if we want to throw stones, I think both of us in that case had an ego. And both of us still have an ego for two different reasons. He has a giant ego because he makes the animations and whatnot. I have an ego because I make quality product in an audio format, be it music or voice acting, and I have a long resume of reasons as to why I can feel successful at doing what I do, and why I feel like what I do is right. Or at least, that it's done right, to my standard. You know, it's not about whether what I do is more important than what he did, or what he did is more important than what I did. The point is that we both have an ego because we do the things that we did back then, and we still do it now, and we still have egos about what we've done. It doesn't matter, in my eyes, whether an animator is more important than the voices that bring his animated characters to life. To me, they are the same, which is why I can compare the two, because they're both the same. This is like having an ego for the same thing, just you're doing it differently. Some people can do all of the steps. Most people can't. And that's why voice actors exist. That's why there is an amateur voice acting community. That's why you can get voice actors for various things that you are creating. Because a voice actor is there to create a character from what you've created and make it their own. And create lines with their mastery of delivery. And create product through practiced mic techniques and practiced mouth techniques and acting techniques that take time and deserve money, because you don't find that everywhere. It's not something that anyone can do, which can be proven by the various people who can't do it, and you know who these people are. Some of them have tried to forge careers for themselves. Some of them have even found ways to get paid to do it as poorly as they do, but that's just because there's nothing left to compare them to. And that's what happened with that. Naturally, when you burn bridges, there's a communication cutoff, and both sides can say whatever they want without the other one being able to get a word in edgewise. So everybody that's only heard his side is going to believe what he says. Everyone that's only heard my side is going to believe what I said. And the few people that have actually heard both sides might be able to try to draw parallels between the two and see what mixture of the two stories feels the most right. And you can see what went on and what was twisted and what isn't. To be honest, I've moved on. I know he hasn't because he isn't talking to me at all, and I've tried to reach out to get something working between the two of us again, because I miss working with that group of people because it was a lot of fun and we were very good at what we did. But we can't do that anymore because of the clashing egos. All that being said, as right as I think I am about taking issue with how I was treated, and that I will not apologize for taking issue with how I was treated, I still believe, and I always did believe, that I handled the situation poorly. Instead of addressing the problem and working with him to fix it, or even just something as simple as calling out what happened, saying, hey, why am I not in the loop right now? I need you to talk to me more. And then working with him to fix that. Instead, I put up a fucking wall and shut him off, which of course pisses him off. That would piss anyone off. So instead of fixing the problem, I created a new problem. And I would be more than happy to apologize for handling the situation in such an immature and horrible manner. But he won't hear any of it because he would rather be mad at me than work this out. And that's the end of that. So don't add me on Steam if you want to be friends. Add me on Steam if you want to play games. And don't expect me to play games with you just because you're on my Steam list. I don't always play games. I'm not on the internet to play games most of the time, sadly. And as I get more and more jobs outside of the internet, it's going to be more and more difficult for me to continue to play games. And I'm not your personal critic. I'm not your personal anything. So stop that. That's fucking stupid. I'm done.